There's a quiet kind of test that every man will face. Not on a stage, not in battle, but in the subtle turns of conversation. In the moments when her smile fades, her tone shifts, and something deeper begins to stir. Not every test is loud. In fact, the ones that matter most often arrive as whispers, a delayed text, a playful jab, a sudden silence, and in those moments, most men think they're being challenged by her. But the truth is, she's just revealing who you really are. Because women don't test you to hurt you. They test you to see you, to feel the weight of your presence, or the hollowness behind your words, to know whether you're standing on real ground or just rehearsing lines built on sand. And what you do in those moments doesn't just determine how she sees you, it defines how you see yourself. So if you've ever wondered why things shift when you stay calm, why she pulls back when you get emotional, or why silence sometimes speaks louder than strength, this video will reveal what's really happening, because a man who understands the nature of these tests stops playing to win her over and starts leading from within. Like the video, subscribe to Stoic Station, and let's dive into what no one teaches, but every man must learn: how to stay grounded when everything around you dares you to lose control. 1. How to handle a woman's test. There are certain things in life no man escapes: loss, aging, and being tested. It's part of the human experience. But in the world of modern dating, especially for men who have standards and strength, being tested by a woman isn't some rare obstacle. It's a constant, and not because she's malicious or trying to play games. Most of the time, she's trying to see something. She wants to know if you're real, if your confidence is earned or borrowed, if the strength you claim to have is felt or faked. A woman's test is rarely about words. It's about your energy under pressure. Can you stay calm when she pokes at your pride? Can you stay composed when she questions your motives? Can you handle discomfort without becoming defensive or overbearing? There are two kinds of tests, and knowing the difference is key to knowing how to respond. The first kind is playful. These are the ones that come wrapped in a smirk, a light jab, a sarcastic remark. She's not attacking you. She's challenging your frame. She's asking, can you match my energy without trying to control it? The man who passes these tests does so without effort. He stays centered. He doesn't get flustered. He plays back, teases back, maybe throws in a witty response that turns the moment into something magnetic. These moments aren't battles, they're invitations to dance. The second kind of test, however, is different. It's serious. It touches your boundaries, your standards, your values. These are the moments when she cancels last minute, disrespects your time, flirts with other men in front of you, or says something that crosses a deeper line. Here's where most men fold, not because they're weak, but because they fear losing connection more than they fear losing respect. They justify, they over-explain, they tolerate. And in doing so, they lose the very thing she was subconsciously looking for: a man who values himself enough to walk away from anything that threatens his dignity. The test isn't about her. It never really is. It's about you, your composure, your conviction, your clarity. And here's the hardest truth you'll ever have to accept as a man. You're not going to get them all. Just move on to the next one. Most men hear that and feel defeat. But if you really sit with it, you'll realize it's not defeat. It's freedom. When you stop believing that every woman's approval is a prize to be won, you stop performing. You stop chasing. You stop bending to fit a mold you were never meant to shrink into. Not every woman will choose you. And she shouldn't. Because not every woman is aligned with who you are. Some will test you because they're curious. Some because they're wounded. Some just because they're bored. Your job isn't to try and pass every test. Your job is to know which ones are worth engaging and which ones signal it's time to walk. That kind of discernment only comes when you stop treating dating like a contest and start treating it like a reflection of how deeply you respect yourself. See, when a man has no foundation, every test feels like an attack. But when a man is grounded, when he knows who he is, what he stands for, and what kind of energy he allows into his life, then a test becomes a mirror, not a threat. And in that mirror, you don't just see her intentions, you see your own. You'll realize if you're showing up with genuine confidence, or if you're just rehearsing lines you read in some book. You'll feel whether your boundaries are real, or if you're just saying what you think sounds strong, and in that moment, her test becomes a gift. Not because she's right to challenge you, but because you're ready to prove something to yourself, not to her. So don't run from the test, but don't chase validation either. If it's light-hearted, meet it with calm humor. If it's serious, meet it with firm presence. But if it feels like manipulation masked as curiosity, leave, not out of fear, not out of anger, but because you know your value doesn't need to be explained, defended, or proved. You are not here to pass every test. You're here to stay rooted in the kind of man who doesn't need to be tested at all. Because the real power isn't in getting every woman to choose you, it's in becoming the kind of man who doesn't lose himself trying. 2. Real-life examples of testing and how to respond. There are moments in conversation that seem small, almost harmless, but they carry a deeper weight. You compliment her, and she throws it back at you. You probably say that to all the girls. Most men freeze here. They stumble into over-explaining, trying to justify the compliment as genuine. But that's the mistake. That reaction reveals you're seeking her approval more than you're standing in your own truth. The grounded man doesn't take the bait. He holds eye contact, relaxed and unbothered, and says with a smile, "Only to the ones who wear trouble so well." In one sentence, he reclaims the frame, stays playful, and shows he won't be shaken by a simple challenge. She says, "I have a boyfriend," even when her body language says otherwise. Again, most men either retreat awkwardly or try to prove their innocence. But a man who owns the moment might reply, "I was just coming over to friend zone you anyway." It's light, it's clever, it shifts the dynamic back to balance. Then there's the classic, "You're not my type," a line that hits many men's insecurities. But the man who knows himself doesn't flinch. He responds with clarity and confidence. "That's okay. I'm not looking to be typical." Here's the deeper reality behind these interactions. It doesn't matter how skilled or smooth you are. If a woman isn't interested, she isn't interested. No line, no charm, no effort will flip a closed door into an open one. You can't alchemize indifference into desire. Some women test to engage, others test to dismiss. Your strength is knowing the difference and never chasing what clearly doesn't want to be caught. 3rd, common tests in dating or relationships. There are certain questions and behaviors that show up repeatedly in dating, not because she's trying to trap you, but because she's observing who you are under pressure. When a woman asks, "How many women have you slept with?" most men panic. They either lie, over-explain, or get defensive. But that's not what she's looking for. She's watching your composure. A man who knows his value doesn't fumble. He leans back with a grin and says, "Only the ones I liked. You might be next." It's playful, non-defensive, and holds the upper hand. Or imagine she's texting another guy while sitting beside you. Most men will either ignore it or make it an argument. But the man with quiet confidence calls it out with a smirk. "Guess I should text Jessica back then." You're not getting jealous. You're showing that you notice, and you're not afraid to let her know your standards without making it a drama scene. Then there's the classic question, Are you seeing other women? A question that rattles those trying too hard to impress. But the man who's grounded responds with ease. Only the woman in front of me. It's direct, disarming, and confident. Yet the most telling moment isn't in what she says, but in what she does. If she cancels plans on you, once, maybe there's grace, but twice in a row, even with a good reason, that's your cue to stop being polite and start being clear. You look her in the eye and say, "I'm not cool with this," or "We won't be going on dates." Not as a threat, not to punish, but as a man who understands time is respect and yours matters. Too many men compromise their boundaries for the illusion of connection. Every time you excuse disrespect, you send a message, "I'll take whatever you give me." And that's exactly why she keeps testing, to see if you'll finally remember who you are. 4. In long-term relationships. Respect doesn't erode overnight. It fades in silence. It weakens every time you avoid the hard conversation, every time you let a small boundary slide, every time you choose comfort over clarity. And by the time you realize the dynamic has shifted, you're not just adjusting course, you're trying to undo a pattern you helped create. The truth is, people don't mistreat you by chance. They do it because, knowingly or not, you've shown them there are no consequences. You didn't push back. You didn't speak up. And over time, the relationship evolved, not in your favor, but with your silent permission. We teach people how to treat us, through what we allow, through what we excuse, through what we tolerate. And the longer you've stayed quiet, the harder it becomes to take that power back. The longer your cojones have been in her purse, the harder it is to change the dynamic. It's a harsh image, but it speaks to a deeper truth. If you've lost your edge in the name of peace, if you've softened your voice to avoid conflict, then part of you already knows it's time. Time to reclaim what you let slip, your voice, your presence, your worth. But don't make the mistake of turning that frustration outward. This isn't about blaming her. This is about recognizing the role you've played in how far the balance has tilted. Own it, not with shame, but with strength, because the moment you take responsibility is the moment you regain control. Draw your line today, because no one respects a man who won't even fight for himself, and neither should you. 5. How to stay grounded in your masculinity. Real masculinity has nothing to do with raising your voice, intimidating others, or pretending not to care. It's not about dominating a room or always having the last word. True masculinity is presence. It's restraint. It's the quiet confidence of a man who knows he doesn't have to prove himself, because he already has, to himself. Being grounded means you don't flinch when you're challenged. You don't spiral when she pulls back. You don't react just because your ego feels bruised. You breathe. You observe. You respond if needed, but you never lose yourself. There are 2 ways to cultivate that kind of strength. One is the direct path, putting yourself into uncomfortable, high-pressure situations that force you to face your fears head-on. Rejection, uncertainty, tension. When you survive those fires, your edges harden. The second path is slower, but deeper. You commit to building a life you respect. You get your finances in order. You heal your emotional wounds. You stay consistent in your routines. You surround yourself with people who challenge and uplift you. You become the kind of man who no longer seeks validation, because he's built a reality he's proud to come home to. That's when the tests lose power. That's when her games don't shake you and her silence doesn't own you. Because the man you've become doesn't need to chase reassurance. He's grounded in something deeper. If you can walk away calmly, you're grounded. If you react emotionally, you're not there yet. Don't fake peace. Build it. Don't perform strength, become it. And when you do, you'll stop fearing what she might do and start trusting who you already are. 6. The difference between running away and walking away. Not all exits are created equal. Some men walk away thinking they've reclaimed their power, when in truth, they're just escaping discomfort. And others stay in situations far too long, mistaking endurance for strength. But real strength isn't about staying or leaving. It's about knowing why you're doing either. Walking away from disrespect, manipulation, or emotional chaos isn't weakness. It's self-respect. It's the quiet act of protecting your peace without needing to raise your voice. It's knowing where your line is and having the courage to enforce it with composure. But running is different. It's when you leave because your pride is bruised, not because your standards were violated. It's when you're reacting to pain rather than standing on principle. So how do you know the difference? You know when you can look her in the eye, tell her calmly what crossed your line, and leave without needing her to feel the hurt you've carried. That's strength. That's growth. But if you walk away filled with resentment, needing to punish her emotionally, or needing to prove that she lost something, you're still trapped, not by her, but by your own ego. This is the moment you ask yourself a harder question than most men ever do. Are you focused on growth, or are you just protecting your ego? Because ego wants to win the argument. Ego needs to be right, but growth is different. Growth wants clarity. It wants peace. It wants healing, even if that means letting go. You don't need to win the moment. You need to win your life. And sometimes that means walking away, not to escape, but to rise. Summary. When it's all said and done, here's what you need to remember. You'll never be able to stop women from testing you, and that's not the point. The real question is, what kind of man is she testing? A man seeking approval, or a man who stands firm in his identity? Because if you haven't done the work, if you haven't built the inner structure that makes you unshakable, the test will always rattle you. Not because she's too much, but because you're not yet enough for yourself. And while you hesitate, while you waver, there are other men who chose the harder path. They embraced the discomfort. They built their value brick by brick. And now, they're the ones she watches without saying a word, wondering why they don't chase what she once gave away. Other men will take that hero's journey, and they will have more options, not because of luck, but because they showed up for themselves first. So the next time she tests you, don't just try to pass. Ask yourself if she's even worth the challenge, and if she's not, let your silence be your final answer, and walk away with power. If you want to become that man, the kind who commands respect in silence, then this is your moment. Like the video, subscribe to Stoic Station, and choose growth over comfort.